hospital system is now being flooded with more private patients, because close to 80 private hospitals have shut across the nation in the last 5 years. 12 private hospitals have now closed their maternity or their mental health services, as the system, we are told, is now teetering on the verge of collapse. Just think of the maternity ward at St John of God in Mount Lawley. That's been closed. And St John of God Hospital in Bunbury, that's also been closed. And the Bethesda Mental Health Clinic that was operating in Coburn, that recently switched from private to public operation, so a mental health ward was closing. This could now be the tip of the iceberg. And Dr. Michael Page is the WA President of the Australian Medical Association. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ollie.
Are private hospitals really doing it tough, Dr. Page?
They absolutely are, Ollie. This is, these closures that we're seeing across the country, and as you've mentioned, the closures of particular units, maternity units in Mount Lawley and Bunbury, as well as the closure of that mental health facility in Coburn, really are the canary in the coal mine here. You know, we've got big private hospital operators in Western Australia with big full-service hospitals, but you know, there's no guarantee that these businesses, they're private hospitals, they operate as businesses. They need revenue coming in to treat patients. There's no guarantee they'll survive forever. And the missing piece here is revenue from the private health insurers. So, you know, one of the big issues here is in the face of rising costs, you know, inflation that everyone's feeling in terms of bill shock on electricity and all the other things that we all have to pay for. The hospitals have to pay for those things too. But the revenue coming in from the private health insurers for insured patients is insufficient to meet costs. And as a result, the services offered by private hospitals are having to be adjusted to enable care to continue being provided.
Is that because of the declining membership in private health insurance, that customers are just saying it's too expensive, I can't afford it, I'm going to downgrade my private health insurance, Dr. Page?
It's a bit of a chicken and egg situation there, Ollie. I mean, because the private health insurers are not funding certain services in the way that they previously have, people are then choosing to drop their private health insurance as a result. So, and then of course that puts the private health insurers in a bind if their membership is declining. So it's a bit of a cycle. But at the moment, the impression is certainly that the private health insurers need to do more to keep the private hospitals viable.
$611 million lost financially last year across the private hospital network. The alarm bells must be ringing all the way to the top.
Absolutely, as they should be. Look, there are certain services that private hospitals are simply having to reduce, maxillofacial surgery, so things like wisdom tooth removal, plastic surgery, which, we're not just talking about cosmetics when we talk about plastic surgery. We're talking about, cancer surgery and reconstructive surgery. Things like that are increasingly hard to get in the private system, and then that pushes those patients with, elective but essential surgery needs back onto the public hospital system, which is overstretched. So governments are looking at this. State governments, which operate the public hospitals, are looking at this with a great deal of concern, because there is no way that the public hospital system can cope with all that overflow. And we need it. We need a mixed system. The private hospitals are an incredibly important part of care for Western Australians.
It's just an odd scenario because, as you said, Dr. Page, we have a situation where these public health wait lists are blowing out every single day. We know how much pressure is on our public hospital system at the moment. If private hospitals have more capacity or they're closing down wards, you've even got a day hospital network that also can step up, and we've touched on that from time to time, Dr. Page. There are options available.
Look, that's right, and it's the mixed nature of our system that makes the Australian health system so strong. The fact that we've got people who are willing and able to pay for private health insurance as well as out-of-pocket costs for their own care actually enables our public hospital system to run reasonably efficiently and to remain viable. We look at health systems around the world, in the United Kingdom, for instance, where they're heavily reliant on the on the government-only system of the NHS with a relatively small private system, that NHS is on the verge of collapse. So we have a very good system here, but the insurers really need to play their part in ensuring that our private hospitals remain viable. So I'd still encourage people to have private health insurance if they can afford to do so and choose to do so. But we do need to see a bit more from the private health insurers to keep the private hospital system viable. I
see the management of St Vincent's Hospital over in New South Wales, one of the country's largest private hospitals, believes maternity services may not even be offered at any private hospital in Australia within 5 years. We're not going to get to that stage, are we, Dr. Page?
Well, one certainly hopes not, Ollie, but this is the reality that private obstetric services are becoming harder to run viably by private hospitals, and certainly, that St Vincent's Hospital Group that you mentioned have just had a major split from one of the big over east, at least, private health insurance, NIB. There's still a lot of patients in WA also insured by NIB, because NIB was unable to kind of meet the funding needs of the St Vincent's Hospital network, and so we're starting to see signs of a system that is under extreme pressure.
Sounds like it. Dr. Page, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Anytime, Ollie.
That's Michael Page, the WA President of the Australian Medical Association, that the private hospitals in Australia, they're on the verge of collapse. Closures are beginning. We've lost 80 private hospitals across the country in the last 5 years. And you think of those maternity services, again, gone from St John of God Mount Lawley, St John of God Bunbury, the Bethesda Mental Health Clinic, switched from private to public hands. Yet we've got so much demand